The U.S. is trying to play down concerns ahead of a controversial talks on the Ukraine war in Saudi Arabia in the coming days.
Well, that meeting will see only the U.S. and Russia at the table, apparently without Ukraine and Europe.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump says the Ukrainian leader will be involved, but didn't say when. He added he will be meeting his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, very soon.
There's no time set, but it could be very soon.
Like this month?
Well, it'll be soon. We'll see what happens. But they're meeting right now. And that's more. I mean, this should have been done 4 years ago, 3 years ago, before it started. But it should have been done immediately after it started, as opposed to now, 3 years later.
Meantime, America's top diplomat Marco Rubio told CBS News that Europe could be brought in if talks advanced. But he warned there is a long way to go before starting any peace negotiations. Trent Murray has more from the Munich Security Conference.
Well, as the Munich Security Conference comes to a close, already Europe is now gearing up for yet another set of defence talks. We understand senior European officials will be coming together this week for an emergency summit to discuss the war in Ukraine. That follows news that a US delegation led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be holding direct one-on-one talks with a Russian delegation in Saudi Arabia. A discussion we understand to be centred on trying to strike some sort of peace deal, some sort of diplomatic solution to the war in Ukraine. But news of that meeting has caused some concern here in Europe amid fears that European countries could be sidelined in those talks between Moscow and Washington.
Can you assure this audience that Ukrainians will be at the table and Europeans will be at the table?
The answer to that last question, just as you framed it, the answer is no. The answer to the earlier part of that question is yes. Of course the Ukrainians are going to be at the table. I mean, who would be foolish to say they wouldn't?
President Zelenskyy of Ukraine is saying his country did not receive an invitation to those talks.
Maybe there is something at the table, but not on our table. So I didn't see any invitations, envoys, and etc. from Ukraine to meet with some other envoys.
That comes in contrast to what the US is saying. They say they did invite Kyiv. Certainly the Ukrainians have said that there should be no discussion about Ukraine without Ukraine. Those were President Zelensky's words. He also said there should be no discussion about Europe without Europe.
Europe needs to be a part of this process. Ukraine needs to be a part of this process. If not, this type of ceasefire is not going to be credible.
So we will be closely watching in coming days what the results of these talks will be. But certainly European countries will be wanting to make sure that their voice is heard amid ongoing concerns that the war in Ukraine does continue to represent a major security threat to the European continent as a whole. Another major focus of the Munich Security Conference are those ongoing concerns about a potential trade war. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, has said the EU is one of the biggest and most powerful trading blocs in the world, and she said if the Trump administration applies tariffs to the EU, then she is ready, the EU is ready to return those types of tariffs in kind. That could cause real major implications on the global economy if it indeed sparks a major trade war between these two big economies. Trent Murray for CNA in Munich.